Thank you for clicking Dr. Samurai channel. In this video, I would like to discuss Mr. Justin Bieber, especially why he was hooked on drug so deeply, and also it was so difficult for him to get out of his addiction. My name is Dr. Samurai. I'm a professor specialized in social pathology. I'm hoping this video will deepen your understanding of the nature of human beings. As usual, I would like to provide you brief basic information first, and then like to move on to our main discussions in the latter half. Are you ready? Okay, let's start. Mr. David Artavier wrote an article for Yahoo Life Online that Hailey Bieber says it was extremely difficult navigating Justin's sobriety after having witnessed her dad's drug addiction. In this article, she is saying her dad and other people on her dad's side of the family struggled with the drug addiction, and that experience is now helping her to support Mr. Bieber. But why Mr. Bieber was hooked on drug so deeply in the first place? Many people point out his early success in the music industry. However, I speculate it was more due to his early upbringing with her mother. If you like this kind of deep discussions, please click that yellow and green good luck charm logo. Now, it is officially considered that drug addictions is a disease, meaning those who easily get hooked on drugs and cannot get out of that addiction highly likely have backgrounds that leads the person to that addiction. And as a social pathologist, I speculate Mr. Bieber's main cause of his drug addiction was in being raised by his mother, who was also a victim of sexual abuse herself. Mr. Justin is confessing about his background, highly honestly, and it goes like this in his own blog. You see, I didn't grow up in a stable home. My parents were 18, separated, with no money, still young, and rebellious as well. And looking deeply into his parents' background, his mother, Patty, is confessing in her own book about her background, saying that she was 2 when her father left Patty, her mother, and older brother. She was already suffering sexual abuse at the hands of several acquaintances by the age of 3. It continued for years, and she couldn't talk about it to her mother and stepfather. She was also saying that since it lasted so long, she almost started to think of it as something normal. But then later on, she started to drink, smoke pot, shoplifted, and vandalize schools and so on. She also lost her virginity at 15 and committed a failed suicide attempt, landed in a psychiatric ward for 19 days. What all this means is, as psychologist Dr. Eleanor Greenberg, who has been seen a substantial number of patients, is clearly saying that many more of my clients with the borderline personality disorder have been sexually abused. Borderline disorder is simply saying instant mood swing, and their major thing is the fear that people around her will abandon her and desert her. So the patients always do things to keep others' attention on her. The fact that Justin's mom was a victim of sexual abuse indicates there's a high possibility that Justin's mom suffered from borderline disorder, I speculate. And since she divorced from her husband when Justin was very young, Justin was the only person close to her and available to her. So, unconsciously, she tried to dominate Mr. Bieber's attention on her. And I could see her excessively close attention to Mr. Justin based on online images. Without knowing it, Justin became her own possession. I speculate. I understand she had to do it to survive herself. But on Mr. Justin's side, because she was his mom and he lived only with her, he always had to read her faces and her moods all the time, which I speculate blocked him from growing naturally and emotionally like all the other people. In short, he could not develop his own ego to live independently in a society because he had to kill himself to please his mother all the time. I assume either he or she does not recognize it. But based upon my counseling experiences, it is highly likely. So he did not know how to live socially. He did not have solid base to live independently. But because of her mother's promotion, he earned that instant success at the age 13. And as he is confessing, it was incredible responsibility for him to be ultra successful all the time in this extremely competitive music industry. So he is saying after he became a celebrity at 13, his mentality was like, if I get this, I'll be happy. If I do this, I'll be happy. You know, he was always under high pressure to be successful because he was the source of revenue. Nobody taught him appropriate behavior. He had to learn it himself in a very, very painful ways. All normal things that ordinary people learn in their childhood, in their stable home during the childhood. Like I said, using drug is called self-medication. By being addicted to it, they periodically use drugs to ease their pain. In a nutshell, I speculate as a specialist that the reason why Mr. Bieber was hooked deeply on drugs was because when he did not have himself and his ego and the base to live socially due to having to please his mother all the time, he suddenly started to take on this burden of having to be super successful in music industry repeatedly, know himself, heavy burden. As a result, he was psychologically breathing all the time behind his repeated hit songs, and to self-medicate that agonizing pain that he had to meet his responsibility without even having himself. The drug was the only thing which gave him peace in his mind. That is what I speculate. I understand it was very difficult for his mother, but it could have been even more difficult for Mr. Justin, who had to go through all that without knowing himself and having his firm base. This is pretty much it. If you like this kind of a deep discussion, please click that red Dr. Samuel logo. And it must be nice to for you to think about, to look back on your own life. Wherever you are, my friend, on this same small, beautiful planet Earth during this miraculously short period of time. Thank you very much now. Bye-bye.